Thank you all so very much for coming along to the presentation this evening of the arrested. Quick little rundown of panel. Not everyone's experience is the same, or even the same each time that you do get arrested. So sometimes it may be funny, other times maybe not so much, which is why we are doing this. It is through our shared experience that we can grow together and become stronger together. How did you feel the police treated you when you got arrested? You know, did they treat you respectfully, or were they a bit condescending? Yeah, Sammy, you said that you've only been arrested once. How was your interaction?
Yeah, I think for me, the police they are pretty ignorant while they were holding us and then arresting us. They didn't even seem to know why they were arresting us, and wouldn't really give any information. At the station, they were actually okay to me. They were quite, like, I found it all really shocking at the time because it had been such a surprise. And the thing they didn't do is tell you what you're able to ask for, what your rights are once you're in a cell. And I think that's something that I was really grateful, because some old ladies came around and said, do you know what you can ask for? And so I was able to then know that I could have a shower, that I could ask for food or drink anytime, that I could get clean clothes. Yeah, that's how we all come out in those nice gray outfits. So yeah, it wasn't it's weird. It's as though the whole system is so broken up. Nobody actually knows what's going on. Just put in a cell. That was my experience. You put in a cell and you're just held there. And when you're at the station, it seemed to me nobody really knew why or what, or didn't really, there wasn't any consideration that you are a peaceful activist or anything. Yeah, I can pass on to somebody.
Yeah, Sophia,
Yeah, I was gonna say each time it's kind of varied. So it really depends on, I guess, which officers that you've got. And yeah, I've had really good ones where they've been super understanding, and like anything that I needed, they were very helpful. But then I've had really awful ones where my rights were completely disrespected. So there's been a huge range, to be honest.
Now, Catherine, you said you've been arrested 5 times, both combination with Animal Rebellion and with Just Stop Oil. Have you noticed any differences between the way the police treated you, if it was dependent upon if you were Animal Rebellion or JSO, or if it was just kind of random?
I don't think it depended on which organization I'd been, taking part in actions for. I think there was a difference. The first time was with Animal Rebellion, and that was in the centre of London, and so it was the Met Police, and the Just Stop Oil ones were Essex Police. And the Met, the first experience was during an XR rebellion, and there were just so many actions going on all over the place. They were obviously really, really pressed and under pressure. And I think, yeah, being arrested in London probably is a little bit of a different experience. Nonetheless, it wasn't bad. It just all took a long time. There's a lot of queuing, a lot of waiting. But yeah, generally, I don't know whether I'm lucky or what, but yeah, my experience with the police has always been really good. I've always been treated really well. Everybody's been respectful. There's been differing amounts of like how much they wanted to chat and sort of interact. Some a lot, some are just not that interested. But I've had a couple of experiences where I really felt like they kind of supported what I was doing, and they really understood, and they were kind of rolling out the red carpet, couldn't do enough, particularly in Essex when I was arrested for Just Stop Oil. There were a lot of custody staff who were just so kind, and it just felt to me, and they couldn't say that, of course, but it felt to me that they really understood the reasons I was doing it. So that was really nice.
Freedom, Norb? Either of you have anything you'd like to interject?
Sure. So my first experience of how the police deal with protests was before I got involved in NVDA, really. It was during the sort of Kill the Bill protests in Bristol, the riot, the police van got lit on fire, etc. Some of them I heard about it. How the police dealt with those protesters compared to how I was treated and how a lot of people at like the action I was at and stuff was treated with like worlds apart. And I think part of that was sort of like tactics. I think part of that was to some extent the police being scared of the legal support we had behind us. So in terms, the police knew we had sort of solicitors and we had sort of legal support that we could easily contact, whereas the Kill the Bill movement was very kind of anarchist in nature and didn't have a lot of the same support until much, much later. So you had a lot more of them being kind of literally beaten up behind police lines with batons and all that sort of stuff, and a lot more of a hostile environment. So I came to my first action, so Buckingham Palace, with that in my mind and kind of not knowing how the police were going to react to me. But I was kind of, I suppose in some ways I was pleased that they were a bit better. My standards were already low, so it was kind of, they weren't particularly high, I suppose. But it wasn't hard to sort of improve upon my standards because of that. But yeah, as other people have said, it kind of sort of varied from protest to protest. But on the whole, I felt that kind of at NVDA protests, whether that be JSO and Rebellion, they've been quite careful about how they treat us. And I think that's probably the reason, because they know that people are essentially watching us with a fine tooth comb, the cameras are on us, and they know that any step they go wrong will be sort of portrayed badly in the media and could even potentially help our cause.
How about you, Nob?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a straight white guy who sounds like this, so I would say that I have quite a bit of privilege when getting arrested. And you know, after my first arrest, I was released, and the police thanked me for being a lovely person, and I was like, "You can jog on. I'm not being nice for you." But yeah, I have had pleasant experiences, and the only thing it does vary each time, as people have said, and the only thing I really have to add is that the support I received when leaving the police station is really what makes it all possible. You know, especially the Met, so the London police, they do small things to, I think, like psychological torture almost, like turfing you out at 3 a.m. Instead of at a reasonable time. But because, you know, we have the support structures in place, it means that when I get released at 3 a.m, I know that I won't be on my own in the streets of London, that there'll be other rebels outside waiting with food, water.
You can't talk about that yet. Don't talk about that yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No.
Well, that's all I had to say.
This is the cool part. You know, want to make people very shocked and very depressed, and then we tell them about the wonderful things that happen when we get out. So, what about the booking in process? How was your interaction with them? I mean, was it kind of all right, or were they a bit more condescending? And how do you feel that they were able to meet your individual needs? Bo, yes, Bo, haven't heard from you yet.
For me, yeah, I mean, actually, I think one of the first things that the person who's booking you in will say is that they're there for your welfare, which is actually like quite comforting in a way, even if you don't 100% believe it. But yeah, I mean, they just kind of make you feel comfortable. I didn't feel bad at all. They just confirm your details. I think at that point, it's usually the time where you would give your address if you want to. And yeah, and then they just go through quite a few questions with you. Some of the stuff you would probably say no comment to, but I think when they ask you about your mental health or, anything that could affect you when you're in the cell. So maybe if you have anxiety or if you have, medication that you have to have, stuff like that, that's the time to say that. And yeah, it's also the time to ask for a book if you don't have one. And yeah, maybe a pen and paper or a nice new outfit. Yeah, but I found it both times. I mean, the first time was when I was arrested, and the second time was when I handed myself in. So I'm not sure how different that experience would have been. But yeah, for me, it was quite plain sailing.
How was it for you, Meow?
Meow. Yeah, I guess it was different because we were in Cornwall. So, and I don't know if this is normally the case, but I think this was particularly for G7, is that they had these big tents that they took people to. So they were prepared at that time. I think they were prepared to arrest a lot of people. And so they took us to these tented sort of areas where they'd got like a setup. And then we went round this setup. And that was fine. Yeah, it was questions, but I mean, again, like for me, it was just really confusing. You're taken somewhere, it wasn't a police station, first of all, it was just this big tent. We do that, and then I think because they arrested like 15, 20 of us at the same time, so they were splitting us up, and they put me into a like a great big, it was like a great big armored vehicle, you know, with like this tiny little cell at the front. And they closed the door. And I suppose this is one thing that's really interesting about being arrested that I realized, is that you don't realize that perhaps you have triggers. So like I wasn't prepared to be arrested, so I hadn't like prepared myself for anything. And the trigger for me is that as a child, I had claustrophobia. So, and as an adult, I've always managed to just keep out of really crowded areas or just control it. You know, I had forgotten about it. So they put me in this tiny little like locked in thing in this huge van. And I heard them saying it's going to be, we'll wait 45 minutes and then it's about an hour and a half's drive to wherever they were going to take me. And I was just like, oh my God, I cannot stay in here for two and a half hours, 2.25 hours. And I just started panicking and tapped on the thing and they let me out. Like, and it was like being locked up before you're even locked up. And then they took me to see a nurse. So that was fine. And then they put me into a police car, like a big sort of, you know, a 4x4 that they had, and drove me to the local police station instead of the one that's an hour and a half away. So, but that took basically a panic attack for them to actually not lock me up in a small space for several hours before getting anywhere. And then I went through the process of, you know, just handing over my stuff and things. And this is the funny bit, is that the guy, the police guy, was going through my belongings that they put aside, and he went, okay, 6 carrots, 1 apple, 2 bananas. And he said, I have never emptied somebody's bag and written down 6 carrots, 2 apples, 1 banana. And I was like, that was my lunch, but I didn't have a chance to eat it. So he had a laugh about that, but it was pretty rough at first, like before we got to the police station.
Sophia, you had your hand up. How was your booking in process?
Yeah, usually they are quite cheerful. I mean, I do tell them the moment I come in that I do have, like, I am a vulnerable person, because of mental health. So they are generally very easy to change their tones as soon as they hear that, because then they're held legally responsible. But I think there was one time where it just felt absolutely horrific, the entire booking process. Where, I mean, we did get strip searched during that process, and it was just absolutely awful. But generally, they are very nice, and they will actually listen to you and you have a nice conversation.
How about you, Freedom?
So yeah, I was just gonna say, I sort of had 2 different experiences in terms of checking in. I wouldn't say any of them were kind of particularly bad, but I suppose the first time I had my checking in process, it was Buckingham Palace. It was my first time being arrested. I was a bit unaware of what I could and couldn't say, and kind of the main legal information I had, no rights training was from Palestine Action, which was slightly different to animal rebellion tactics and stuff. So I wasn't particularly sure of how to behave. I was paranoid of like the police's questions. So there was a guy checking me and taking my fingerprints and stuff. It was like kind of trying like what could possibly be like casual conversation with me, and I was just like literally just like no commented through the whole thing, and it was just stuff like, oh, like, are you a student, like what are you studying or whatever, and I was just so, I say it was like pent up, not knowing what I can say and what I can't. Yeah, I suppose very paranoid. I didn't give my name. I think they said, what do you want us to call you? And I just said, I don't know, just call me Josh. And I just said that, like, just to be clear, that's not my name, but you can just call me that if you want. And so they just kind of stuck to that for a while until I was able to talk to a solicitor, and the solicitor confirmed for me with Anne Belly back office that for this action, it wasn't really an issue for me to give my name and stuff. So I went through and did that. It kind of sped things up. But the actual checking in process was fairly fast. The third time I was arrested was with GSO, which was for aggravated trespass. And that was a bit different in the sense that, because they did more people, I think it was. And there was a full van load of people ahead of me, so about 6 people who all had to get checked in before me, and the van load that I was in had to get checked in, and then there was a load of people for the night before who were just kind of like Saturday night drinkers, drunk and disorderly, etc. So the cells had to be cleared and all this sort of stuff, so it just took a long time, and this whole time I was just thinking, I really need to go pee. And I remember the police officer said that you can like keep your bags with you and stuff, we just trust you won't, like, you can't eat anything, we can get you some biscuits. If ever you need to go to the toilet, just let us know, we'll escort you when we have the staff. So I was like, okay, I don't need to go right now. He said, oh, can you wait a bit? Yeah, it's fine. And then about an hour later I said, so like, can you take me now? And he was like, oh, maybe. And then it just sort of didn't happen, which was a bit annoying. I was able essentially to be able to hold on until I was able to get into my cell. But yeah, I don't think that was, I'm not particularly someone who's supportive of the police, but I don't think that was particularly their fault. They were following like procedures and stuff, but it kind of, I think, illustrates how like situations can be different.
How about you, Catherine? How's it booking in always been for you?
Yeah, it's always been fine. I think the one thing that that I want to sort of say to people is that you need to be prepared for it to take a while, because it can be quite a slow process. Not the actual booking in bit at the desk, but waiting to get booked in quite often, especially if there's a lot of actions going on. Sometimes you'll be put into this kind of holding room, which is just like a cubicle with a seat, and you'll sort of have to sit in there with like each person who's been arrested. If there's been a group of you, will be in one of those, and it's kind of like queuing to get in, to check into the hotel. So yeah, sometimes that can take a while. When I was arrested in London, they didn't have those sort of holding cells, so we were just waiting outside in the car park, like each one of us with our arresting officer. So yeah, it can take a while. As a contact lens wearer, my top tip is always make sure, if you think you're going to get arrested, to take your contact lens case and your glasses with you. And you know, every time I've asked, you know, can I take my lenses out and switch to my glasses, and they're always like really kind and let you do that. And as with like going to the toilet as well, if you're waiting a couple of hours, then they'll generally escort you in. The booking in process has always been fine. The more times I've been arrested, I suppose this will apply to everybody, the easier it becomes. The more you know what you can ask for, what you can say, and the less stressful it becomes, I guess. Like other people have said, I was a little bit apprehensive the first time, didn't really know what I could ask for, what I should and shouldn't say. But the only things you really have to say is your name, and your address is probably wise to give. Yeah, this isn't a legal briefing, so I probably shouldn't give advice like that. Do come along to one of our legal briefings. But yeah, it's always been a fine experience for me.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of waiting. Speaking of waiting, how do you find the cells, the nice little police station suites? Now, everybody talks about how reading material, they do have books on hand, and that paper and pencil or pen. I've asked for pencil and pen several times and have never received it, but I have been able to have some really boring books to read, and twice I've been able to have the lasagna, which is amazing, the vegan lasagna. which apparently not everybody has been able to have. Yeah, so Sammy, they took away your lunch. How was your compensation? Did you get the lasagna?
I didn't get the lasagna. They had some kind of wrap. They had a vegan wrap, but I didn't. I wasn't actually hungry. But the one police officer did go and see if they had any fruit in the fridge, which they didn't. But it did look. But yeah, and then I was given some magazines. I think it was like magazines like Beautiful Homes and stuff like that, you know. And you're like stuck in this tiny little box looking through beautiful country homes. And what else? Oh yeah, and I was just pacing around the whole time. And I think it was, you know, it is that thing. It was my first arrest. It was a complete shock. And I'd never planned, like not planned on being not arrested, because you go there knowing it's a possibility, but I'd always managed to run off in the other direction. And, you know, so I was kind of in that zone of like, it's never going to happen. I can just nip over there. I'm a photographer. And so when it did, it was like, what? So I was pacing around the whole night. I think I was in for like 22 hours. I think they had us all in that at that time. And about 10 hours in, one of the police officers brought a football in for me and said, look, I think this might help you. You can bat it against the wall, you can bounce it, it might just be some comfort. And it really was. So I would say ask for a football. Ask for a football or a tennis ball or something, because it's really good, and you get a bit of exercise as well, and it distracts you catching the ball and stuff. So yeah. That was my time.
First time I was arrested, I was in custody for about 10 hours. And then the second time I was in custody for about 23 hours. Bo, as far as I know, as the only one who's gone and turned themselves in, did you find yourself being in custody any shorter or longer after turning yourself in?
No, actually, when I turned myself in, I was in for longer, but I think that's because of the specific thing that we were being charged with, which was burglary. So I guess we got remanded. So I was actually in there for like 38 hours. Whereas the first time I was only in for like 12 hours. So I think, yeah, I don't think it would have been. I think if I had handed myself in at a demo or something, like, no, I don't know who would ever do that, but like maybe, you know, I think maybe it would have been different. But yeah, I think because we got remanded because of the fact that we had admitted that we had rescued dogs or whatever, and they were saying that was burglary. I think that's the reason, not the fact that we turned ourselves in. So yeah, I'm not too sure if it would be any different. It took us longer to get arrested. Like it took us almost 3 hours to get arrested. Like we were like literally begging them, which was the weirdest thing ever. Like we were literally like, we've done this thing. Can we get arrested, please? And yeah, they were just like, what? So yeah, I feel like it would have been a lot quicker if they had done it themselves.
I was just going to say that I know why they kept us in for 38 hours, Bo. So there were 12 people arrested for that action. 3 of those handed themselves in, and 9 were arrested separately. But they actually remanded us because we'd been the day before done a protest at that location. And then several people had gone back after getting arrested the first time and had bail conditions. And because they broke their bail conditions, the police genuinely thought that if they released us, we'd go back again that night. So that was the reason that they gave, the official reason. There might have been other bits to it. But yeah, when you're remanded as well, just for people who don't know, that's where you get held. Because they can't legally hold you longer than 24 hours normally. But if they remand you, they keep you in until the next available court date. So normally that will be the morning after. But if it's a weekend, you sometimes have to wait until Monday, or you do. So it can be a while. But yeah, it's normally for breaking bail conditions.
I was thinking along the same lines as Nora, really. But what I was actually going to say was when Meow was talking about that kind of experience, it reminded me of how the contrast of me and the Never Friends experiences, and I think it's about preparation. So when all the times I've been arrested, I knew I was going to be arrested. I went prepared. I took books in. People who need glasses take glasses. You and I think last time I took a Sudoku book and like a pen, the pen got taken off me, but they gave me a pencil instead. And if I was giving myself ink poisoning or something, I don't know. But so yeah, I think like that kind of preparation and kind of knowing that you're going to be arrested is what makes the biggest difference between that and even like someone who's like picked up drunk and disorderly on the street or something. That's probably the biggest reason why there's such a contrast between the two things, even if the two people were essentially both kind of reasonable people, if that makes sense, that where they react in different ways.
Yeah, I was just gonna say again, it varies, I guess, from police station to police station. My most recent one was the most awful experience I've had in a cell, where for the entire 30 so hours, I was refused food and water. And even the nurse was putting blame on me on everything, saying that I was the one refusing food when I wasn't. But yeah, so that was my most horrific one. But on the contrast, I would definitely recommend, like, even if you bring your own books, take one of theirs because they're so boring, they'll put you to sleep. And like you can just spend the entire time sleeping and it's wonderful.
Absolutely. Bad read to help put you to sleep is always really nice. Alfie asks, may I ask about how rough police are physically with your handcuffs and experience? Now, yeah, the second time I was arrested, the handcuff on my right hand was quite tight, and yeah, ended up, I still have a little bit of numbness in my right thumb. So sometimes I think it's one of those. I think it's one of those things that might just vary about how police are feeling about you towards the time. Like I said, I got a bit of a numb thumb out of it. I don't know if anyone else has had any type of overly physical.
I was just going to say that, yeah, I've been arrested 5 times, but I've only been handcuffed once. And I think very often people don't get handcuffed. I think the only time I was because I had glued on and they sensed that maybe I had some more glue on me and they thought maybe I was going to glue on again. So I was handcuffed, but every other time I haven't been, and they've been really quite gentle and careful. But I know that's not the experience that everybody has.
There's someone asked in the chat, can't see the name now. Has anybody, Harini, has anybody ever been arrested as a minor?
We do have friends who are minors who do go out and get arrested. They will have a parent or guardian collect them from the police station. But in the panel this evening, because we are wanting to follow legal guidelines and everything like that, everyone on the panel here is of legal age. After all that lovely waiting in the cell, you finally get a chance to speak to your solicitor and go off to the interview. How was any interesting stories, or how was your interaction with your solicitor? Obviously from the bus card, not from the duty solicitor, because nobody goes for duty solicitor. Always solicitor from the bus card, and going off into interview. Bo, who was the one who represented you? So you had you had your bus card first time. Did you also have your bus card solicitor the second time you turned yourself in?
So actually, I do have quite a funny story. The first time that the first time, because I didn't have a bus card, so we wrote it on our legs, our arms, or whatever. And I did it without one of the digits, so I missed a number. So when I was getting asked what solicitor I wanted, I was like, well, it's these people, and they're 07 blah 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 blah. And then I was like, oh, there's not a number there. So yeah, but luckily enough, I knew the name of them, so it was okay. And it was I can't remember who it was the first time. All 2 months ago, I can't remember. Way back in my day. But yeah, the second time when I handed myself in, it was Birds, and yeah. Oh no. So the first time when I got taken out to have my solicitor interview, they were like, why haven't you given your address? And I was like, I have given my address. And they were like, no, it says here that you refused to give your address. And I was like, no, brah, I gave my address, right? And they were like, is your name blah blah blah? I won't say the person's name, but it was someone else who was doing the action with me. So they thought I was them. And they were like, oh, sorry, you need to go back to your cell and we'll interview you later. And then I went back to my cell. And then like an hour later, I came back out and it was a completely different solicitor who wasn't the one that was going to interview me. So that was really random. But the second time, honestly, speaking to the solicitor after how many hours I've been in there was like a dream come true. She was absolutely adorable, and she, you know, they really put you at ease, and you know, they kind of give you the what things you should say and what you shouldn't. I had a little scratch from my second arrest, and they were asking me what that was about and stuff. And, you know, they advised me what I should say about that, because that was the only thing that I had to say something. But, you know, they just let you know that you can say no comment for everything else. And yeah, my solicitor was the bomb. It was really good and really put me at ease. I don't know about anybody else's experiences, but mine were great.
Yeah, to be honest, I think I agree with Bo about it's nice to chat to someone. And sometimes when you're being taken to the interview room, you'll be passing other rebels in the corridor, which is really nice. And you can just like shower a glance or give each other a thumbs up or something. So yeah, the social interaction is definitely nice and breaks up your time whilst you're in there. But for the most part, we always get advised to just no comment throughout interviews. So whatever question we're asked, we just reply no comment, to the point where now sometimes I think I don't even need to bother ring a solicitor because I know what to do, but I do it anyway because, you know, just in case. It's always been pretty fine. I would say they will be sneaky, the people interviewing you, and try and throw in easy questions like, what do you do for work, that you think, oh, that can't possibly affect anything at all about the investigation, but they do it to get you talking. So we just no comment everything. And some of my interviews have been really quick, but one of them was like an hour and 15 minutes long. It was ridiculous. And it was my birthday the next day, actually, and they clocked it. And at the end of the interview, when like all the recordings were off, the officer asked me if I had any nice plans for my birthday, and then immediately was like, actually, wait, don't tell me, I don't want to know. Which I thought was quite amusing, because normally they try and trick you into answering questions, but it gave me an inclination that maybe she was on our side a little bit. It was the one where Bo and some others rescued the puppies. So, you know, it's a potentially popular action with all walks of life.
And yeah, Sammy, how was speaking to your solicitor? Because you were obviously not having a very good time, aside from the football.
Yeah, you know, I was going to say, I mean, I agree entirely with freedom. It is like such a relief to talk to someone and to go. I mean, Bo, when you're saying, it's like, oh my God, after all those hours, you're suddenly speaking to somebody who could just calm you down and say it's going to be okay. Because when you're just in this space, you don't know it's going to be okay. And particularly when it's your first time being arrested, you don't know what to say and you're panicking. What are they going to ask me? But I was going to say that for this was, I'd been doing actions for 2 years and I had never taken the bus card. I had never written down the number. That morning that we got arrested, so in the morning we'd had a training. Oh no, it was the night before. We'd had a training at the camp. And everybody had passed around the pen to write down, it was JSA, to write down their number. And so for some reason, I wrote it on my arm, which I've never done. But I was like, I'm joining in the training. I'll write down the number. And thank goodness I did, because then I had that number. So yes, always make sure you have the number of the solicitor. Always make sure you have a card or the number written on your arm. That's all I was going to say is that, oh, and the interview was absolutely, yeah, the guy was he was so pompous and serious, and I did no comment, but at one point he showed a photograph. They'd printed out this photograph, and I'm a photographer, and they'd printed out this photograph. It was like when we'd taken on a cell phone of all of us on the camp, me in the middle, great big smile on my face and a hat on with an Animal Rebellion badge, holding the banner saying plant-based future. And he said, do you recognize this photograph? And I had to say no comment. And so I said no comment. But what I wanted to say was like, oh my God, it looks so great. I want that. I'm going to have to print that picture out myself. But yeah, it's really, my solicitor was there on the phone the whole time, just stepped in when necessary. At one point he said that I'd said something, you know, he said, oh yes, because you agreed to that. And I couldn't say, I just jumped in and said, no, I didn't. I did not say that. And my solicitor was like, good, yeah, no, she didn't. So sometimes, you know, if they say something, you can step in, but everything else I said no comment. Yeah.
One of the things that I really, really enjoyed about chatting with Solicitor, that really perked up my spirits and kept me going throughout, was them coming in and saying, "Oh, you have a load of friends outside who are all waiting for you." And that just made me feel so wonderful and just really sped up the whole process and just made me feel really excited. About just knowing that we have friends outside doing police station support waiting for us. After the interview, you go back to yourself a little bit. And I personally don't really remember too much from the getting released process, because the whole time I'm just too busy thinking about going out and meeting up with everyone. I don't know if anyone else can have any anecdotes about being released or the releasing process that they would like to share with us.
I suppose it's my first arrest, really. I sort of just released it early hours of the morning. I suppose, especially because it's my first arrest, and I was staying somewhere else in London, not sort of central London. So it would have been hard, it would have been difficult for me to get back to where I was staying. So I'm trying to get to. So having people outside, just kind of being around, people to chat to, some food, was amazing. And I think once we were all out, we went back to Blackheath, which was like an exile/animal rebellion camp in London. So it's a big common. It was so nice. We just like stayed around, had a chat for a while, and I suppose with slight amusement watched like some drunk people messing about in the police like reception area until they got kicked out. But that whole process was pretty good. I was sort of expecting the police to lie to me about like what entrance being let out, because I've heard that happening to some people. Like in terms of they'll let you out one entrance, but your friends are waiting another. But that didn't happen. That's never happened to me. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it hasn't happened to me, so that was good.
I know the exit thing is something that has happened to me on the second time that I was arrested. Everybody was waiting for me at the other door, which was quite frustrating. How about you, Catherine?
Yeah, fine. I think sometimes they try and scare you a little bit with the bail conditions. So when I was arrested during the rebellion, I got bail conditions that I wasn't allowed to enter the city of Westminster or the city of London for the rest of like the next 2 weeks, which was the course of the rebellion. And so they sort of emphasize that. It doesn't really mean anything, maybe, but yeah, they kind of scare you a little bit. And that was the first time I've been arrested, so I was scared because I didn't really realise that it didn't mean much. So I find they tend to be a little bit more serious when they're checking you out. Maybe for that reason, they kind of scare you, whereas when you are being checked in my experience, they tend to be a little bit friendlier and trying to put you at ease. Like other people have said, I've always been let out in the middle of the night or quite late at night, but I've always had people to meet me at the station, so it's always been really nice. And yeah, just really nice to come out and get a hug and see lots of familiar faces.
How do your friends and family, mostly your family, feel about you going off getting arrested? And yeah, so like Noah, when you told your mum that you were going off to get arrested, what was her response to that?
Yeah, so my mum, she's a criminal lawyer, and so she has her own experiences with police and people that she's represented. So she's really worried about what I do, but she does understand why I do it. But yeah, when I think the story you're referring to is I was in court giving evidence, and I basically got arrested for aggravated trespass, but I wasn't meant to be. I thought I was blocking a public highway, so I'd crossed over onto private property by about a metre. And the difference in the charge, it's not huge, but aggravated trespass can carry a prison sentence, for example. And so part of my defense was I wouldn't have done that if I knew and there were no signs, and we stopped in front of the gate. And the judge asked me, and he was like, well, if you were going to go and break the law anyway, what's the difference? Why do one and not the other? And so I said to him, and he loved this. He was a really nice judge, to be fair. He acquitted all 16 of us. Yeah, I said to him, I was like, look, if I knowingly went out and got arrested for aggravated trespass, my mother would kill me. And yeah, she probably would, but you know, I don't tell her everything, and what she doesn't know won't hurt her.
How about you, Freedom? How are your friends and family taking this?
Okay, so I haven't before. I didn't kind of really tell my family about a lot. I kind of realized recently that I needed to be upfront with my family about the idea that eventually, with the PCSE bill coming in and stuff, I might go to prison, and I didn't want my family to find out through someone else or for it being in the papers, whatever. If I'm arrested and then like released the next day, that in many ways is a bit different to me just being in prison for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever. My mum was very, I suppose, worried about me, but said she was generally, yeah, she was supportive and she was proud of me for what I'm doing. But she was just kind of worried about what could happen to me. She heard a lot of like horror stories from prison and stuff. In terms of arrest, I just don't think they've really said a lot. I haven't really asked them about it. I just try to not tell them too much, don't get too worried.
How about you, Bo? I know your mum had quite an explosive interaction with press coming around yours. Has she expressed that explosive behavior towards you about going out and protesting?
Yeah, to give people some context, like I think this is important actually. I feel like you can be inclined to not tell your parents what you're going to do because you're worried about how they're going to judge you or whatever, and they might try and discourage you. But for me, like I really wish that I had, because I did the Queen's Jubilee, which was quite a high profile thing as my first arrest. The Daily Mail like showed up at my mum's house in Scotland, and I have no idea how they got my mum's address, but they showed up, and I probably should have let my mum know more about what was happening. I did tell her that I could have been like, and I'd warned her a little bit, but I didn't tell her that I actually had in the end, and then that's what happened. So they showed up, and my mum is very Glaswegian and just told them to get the F off of her property. And she called me, and she was kind of, yeah, she was definitely pissed. So I would recommend telling people. However, in complete contrast, the next time that I did, I mean, I guess because it was the puppies, like she was really, really supportive. She donated to the, you know, our funds for the legal costs and everything, and was like congratulating me and stuff. So I guess it depends on the thing. I think you have to try and explain why you're doing it. But I do kind of agree with Norm. But then again, if you don't tell them and then the press shows up at your door, like, yeah. So maybe it's better to just tell everyone. But yeah, my mum's supportive now.
How about you, Catherine? How's your social circle in regards to you going out and getting arrested? Are they supportive of you?
Friends, yes. People my own kind of age, yes. They understand why. I don't tell my mum because she's very Tory, of a different generation, and just wholeheartedly would disapprove. So that's kind of a little bit of a difficult situation because I don't want to lie, but I don't want to give her more stress than necessary as well. I know it's always a possibility that houses can get visited, you know, that's in Bo's experience, but I think it tends to be just with the more high profile cases maybe. So yeah, I don't worry too much about that happening. Although yeah, it's a possibility. So yeah, I think she probably does know, because she knows she's got a fairly good idea of what I do, but she doesn't want to know, so I don't go into details and I don't tell her that I have been arrested. I think as far as my mum's concerned, so long as I don't actually say it, then it's not true.
I think you've just actually really hit the nail on the head there, that it's fine telling this to everyone, but when it comes to your parents, I know it was my parents that I was getting ready to speak to them. It took me a couple of days before I was able to build up the courage to be able to tell them and how I was going to phrase it and everything like that. Sammy, as a mum, how have you found it interacting with your offspring?
Yeah, they're actually very proud of me. So they were very supportive of me actually getting into activism. They're like, yeah, Mom, yeah, you should. Yeah, go for it. Because at first I was like, should I do this? Should I? Oh gosh, I feel like, I'm just a, I've been taught I'm just a little me and nothing. What can I do? That's kind of my mom's voice, my parents kind of coming in there. But then I did, and they were like, go for it. So when I told them I got arrested, they were just like, we're so proud of you. Well done, well done for going through it. Well done for being who you are. They're so proud of who I am. But I haven't told my mom because, again, like Catherine said, she's from a different generation. And I do have a feeling she knows a bit more than she says. But again, if it's not said, then it's all good. My friends are all really supportive. They just think that getting out there is amazing. And then obviously arrest is a part of it at some point. So yeah. Some of them think I'm pretty rad.
That has definitely, bring you up in the mum cool books there. My mum gets arrested. Yeah, so we did skip a little bit ahead in the timeline. So I want to go back a little bit to the point of coming out of custody. How have you felt when coming across the ever beloved and most extremely unsung heroes, in my opinion, of these actions, the people who do police station support? Because I've done police station support, and when I see people come out, you see them coming out with all different types of emotions. Some people come out absolutely fine, other people come out and they're practically shaking. And personally, it's always really given me a massive sense of warmth and well-being to be able to give somebody that amount of comfort. So yeah, just want to know what's been your experience in terms of coming across that police station support.
Yeah, it's always been really nice to see familiar faces, and to have somebody there, particularly the first time, because we had a form that we had to fill out, that I think was a form from XR back office. And, to have somebody there who had a phone that I could do it on, and signal and Wi-Fi and stuff, was just really helpful. And if you come out and you don't have any money on you or whatever, and you need to be able to get somewhere, then police station support are always going to be able to help you with that, either to help you with public transport or to give you a lift somewhere. So it's really, really nice, really amazing system that we have.
How about you, Bob? Yeah, like you said, the second time you were held on remand. So you were in custody for a very long time. When you got released, were police station support, were they quite thrilled to have you out? What was your reaction, and what were their reaction?
Yeah, I mean, by complete contrast, my first time, just to say, like, I actually got let out the wrong side for my first arrest. So unfortunately, the people who were there for me, I didn't know they were there. So I ended up like walking home after it and getting the night bus. It was like pretty sad. And the second time, after all that time, and I had just been into magistrates court on Zoom, and it was very nerve-wracking because I was the first person. So I was literally like terrified because I'd never been in court before. And so when I left, I remember it was like a really sunny day, and I walked out in my lovely grey tracksuit, and I was like looking, and I was like, I couldn't see anybody, and I was like, oh no, this has happened again. And then all of a sudden, these three people jumped up like little meerkats from behind a bush and were like, oh my God, and they came running and gave me a big hug and stuff. And I was crying because it was so like emotional to see people who were giving you love and warmth and stuff. And they had dogs with them. They had food and drinks and phones and information and telling me about the press and everything. And it was honestly like a little party. And out of the 12 of us, I think I was the first person to get out. So we laid on the grass and had sun, and I had a dog licking me and stuff. And it was just like, it was unbelievably like, so I think it's essential. Like, and I think it really, it just makes you feel warm. And it was like a little party. And then after I was sitting chatting to them and stuff, talking about what happened, and then another person would come out, and then this just kept happening for like the 12 people. So it was like every time someone got out, we were like, wah! And everybody was running up, and it was just like the most beautiful feeling to see all my friends and stuff afterwards. And yeah, the police support was just incredible. It's so helpful. I couldn't imagine it. Well, I do know what it's like without it, and it's not that good. So yeah, it was wonderful.
How is it for you, Sammy? So, yeah, like you said, when you were in custody there, you were having a bit of a time of it. Were you quite stoic, or were you in a bit teary?
I was okay by the time. So after the interview was done, I actually felt okay. And then, of course, I went and was given all my bail conditions, and that was really, and I got my carrots back and my and my banana. But yeah, it was kind of like intense, because they say, okay, you have to leave Cornwall, Devon and Cornwall immediately, and not come back for 2 weeks, whatever it is. And you think, how am I going to do that? And you step out, and I couldn't see anybody, so I just sat under a tree outside the police station. And then I turned around, and there was Claudia, and that was just absolutely, it was jumping up and down, and hugging, and food, and just love, and like, it's okay, we'll go get your stuff, we'll get you to the station, it's going to be all right. Like, suddenly you've just got this, you've been so disconnected and clueless as to what's going on, and then all of a sudden you are reconnected, and you're with somebody you love, and is like caring for you. And it was amazing. Yeah, so I was able to go back to the campsite, gather up my stuff, and get to the train station in time to get the last train. It was like the night train, get the last train out of there. So it's a beautiful thing. It's the most important thing to have, the police support. Yeah.
Michael's just put in the chat here. If they cannot hold you for more than 24 hours, can they hold your phone, bag, bank cards, etc. for any longer? Now, I've been very lucky in that I have been able to leave with my phone and my camera. But Sammy, so how long did they hold on to your camera for?
Yeah, they had my camera, my laptop, and of course my phone for almost 6 months. Yeah, all my lenses, like everything, every piece of photography equipment I had was taken. I think it's quite unusual, and I think it's because they were just basically clearing out. They were clearing house, basically. They took everything from everybody, and they took everything from the campsite. And I have known photographers who, like you, Michael, and Andrea was arrested, and they just gave his camera back when they let him out. So yeah, I don't think it's necessarily 100% normal for them to keep the photography equipment, but with G7 it was just such a different thing. They just wanted to, I think a part of it was punishing us as well. They didn't want us there. They didn't want us to have the ability to carry on. They were just on a mission at that time, to just kind of clear everything.
Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, that was horrendous. But again, I got like amazing support from Animal Rebellion. Everybody was so brilliant and so kind and so amazing. And I couldn't have felt more supported. That was my loss and my shock, was my equipment going. Like I could have gone through it in a different way, but my panic was, this is my identity, this is my equipment. Well, how am I going to continue my life without these things? And that's what I went through in the cell. And I think that's part of the point of taking it, was just to make you feel terrible, to take your stuff, to take your identity. It was a harsh one, G7, but yeah, but I'm good, and I got it back, and it was all in, they hadn't even touched it, it was in perfect condition, they hadn't even looked at it. So yeah.
Well, yeah, that's really good. That, I mean, at the same time too, that's why if you're going out with the intention of getting arrested, we always say make sure that you go along with a burner phone. You can pick up like iPhone 6S for like 50, 100 quid, which isn't very cheap, but it's cheaper than some of your nicer phones. So always important to go out with your burners, and something that you don't mind the police holding for 10, 12 months at a time. Yeah, and just really quickly too, back to the subject of police station support, like Bo, second time I got released, I got released out the wrong door and couldn't find anyone. and ended up just kind of staggering off to a coffee shop because I was absolutely fatigued, getting a coffee. And when I switched my phone on, I was able to see messages coming in, and that's when I was able to get in touch with people, and started going back to the police station, which I didn't want to do in the first place. But going back to the police station and then seeing the police station support that was there, that's when I got very moody. I did start to weep a little bit. I'm not ashamed of that. And so it's one of the, just from having that experience has put me in a position of being even more eager to do police station support. And the thing that I don't like about doing police station support now is going out and waiting around and then just having the next shift coming up and not being able to welcome anyone or seeing anybody, coming out. And it's just been, I'm like, oh, if I wait another hour, maybe it'll be fine. But that's one of the things that has always kind of upset me now in terms of police station support. But it's definitely one of the things that if the opportunity does come up, absolutely take it, because whether you get seen or not, just your presence being out there is absolutely felt by those being held inside.
So just when you're talking about police station support, reminding me of something. So I think it was the last time I was arrested, might have been the second. Basically, the police told me there was no police station support outside, and they were right, there wasn't. I was the one person that I was arrested with, I found out was in the station as well, so I just kind of waited for him to get out. But when they told me there wasn't any outside, I was aware I needed to contact back office, but I didn't have my phone on me because I didn't have a burner at that point. And I didn't want to take my main phone, partly because I'm paranoid about the police looking at it and getting information and stuff. But I was actually able to say to the police, can I borrow your phone? Because I knew I wasn't going to say anything sensitive. And they said, yeah, that's fine. And I had my bus card on me, so I just used that to ring back office. And I said, I'm now being released, gave my name and everything. And they said, okay, now we know. If it hadn't been for that, I would have got outside the police station and we have no way to tell them. So just like a slight tip if anyone's ever in that situation.
I have gotten a little bit distracted and have not been able to keep up with the chats. So, Alison, are there any questions that have come up that
haven't been answered? Luckily, people have been contributing to the chat themselves and answering quite a lot of them, really. I can't see anything that people haven't answered particularly. My top 3 tips before you leave. There's someone written quite a lot, top 3 tips. If you tell the police when you get arrested that you have anxiety or history of mental health concerns, there's a strong chance they'll come and check on you every 15 minutes, which makes it very hard to sleep. So I have stopped saying that. And if I feel I need support while I'm in there, I ring the buzzer and ask the nurse. The cells can get very warm, but if you move the mattress and sleep on the floor, it's cooler. Ask for things like food before you want them, because sometimes it takes time for it to come. Don't be afraid to keep pestering. I know Catherine said, press the button, get a cup of tea, those sort of things. On a side note, the vegan lasagna they offer almost has 100% salt intake, so be careful. I will say one generic comment, actually, and I've noticed this, is I would recommend if anybody hasn't been to one of the legal trainings that you please do, because there's the kind of questions that I think would be answered there in particular, and we haven't got bus cards here or anything, and they're really useful, and they talk you through the process and what to do.
So
sorry.
Now that we've gone through all of these, traumatizing experiences and stripping away and kind of social bullying, so why would you want to go and get arrested? Why would you want to go and put yourself in that type of situation?
I guess nobody wants to. I certainly don't want to. But why do I do it? I do it because I think it's necessary. And I'm very aware that I have a privilege. I know that I'm going to be treated okay. I know I'm going to be released. I know I'm going to be fed. And not everybody else has that privilege. And so I feel like it's my duty to use it. It works. We've seen from history that this kind of civil resistance does work. and sadly arrest has to be a part of that. And yeah, what else can we do? We've done all the other stuff, haven't we? We've all done, you know, the marches and the petitions and all of that kind of stuff, and that doesn't work. So I kind of feel like this is the last option, really. Yeah, and if we don't do anything, then the future's pretty scary and heartbreaking. And so I kind of feel like I want to be part of this group of amazing people who are stepping up to take this kind of action. I don't want to be looking back and thinking, shit, I could have done something more. I want to be able to say I did everything I could.
Many moons ago, when I did about 10 years anti-vivisection animal rights stuff, because I've been doing stuff 40 years. I do less now because I've got other stuff. But when I got arrested, I found it really. We prepared loads. The reason that we did it, because you're asking about it, is to make a stand for something that you really believe in, and it was against the fur trade. And the police were at the time providing a private security firm for Fendi Furs in Oxford Street, just off Oxford Street, and we thought that was out of order. So we didn't have mobile phones at the time, so we planned it in fields and places like that, like we did with Huntingdon Life Sciences. And we kind of got arrested one after the other, standing outside with legally checked leaflets. And we put up the whole of the West End. And someone said earlier about feeling comrades around you. It's great when you can see all the other animal rights people in the station. So really, it's about making a stand. But for me, I just got incredibly scared and lonely when I was in the south, because they left us there for ages and they wanted to leave us for the weekend. But we got it really well organised, and we had loads of subs waiting for us outside, and we had solicitors already, Kelly's from Brighton and stuff. So we got out, but it took quite a while to get back out. But someone also said about companion animals too. Get somebody to look after them. Have a plan B on that. You know, I've got dogs here, rescued dogs, and I had the hunt subs have keys to my house and all sorts of stuff like that. So that was just a little bit on that. But that was a long time ago.
Tiffany asked a really quick question here about mental health or disabilities. And, you know, I can say as a person, you know, through my youth growing up, I've been abused and bullied quite a lot. I'm also severely dyslexic and autistic. I would say that, you know, it's going off and protesting to get arrested is something that you do spend time thinking about, that you are preparing yourself for, that you are being aware of, and having conversations like this with people like this. It is one of those things that does help you become more equipped for going off and going into those situations. Like when I first joined up with Animal Rebellion, I just thought, these people going off to get arrested, they're absolutely insane. It's just like, I can't believe it. But I heard people sitting around and talking about the experiences of getting arrested and this, that, and the other. And just through hearing people talking about their experiences, it made me feel more comfortable with the process of getting arrested. So that's not to say that it's suddenly absolutely fine. It's like, you know, sunshine and rainbows and everything like that. It's still not a nice thing, but because I have heard so many people talking about it, it is something that I can get myself more accustomed to, more used to, more prepared for. It's about like, you know, going to the dentist. It's not like, you know, you wake up one morning and then all of a sudden the dentist is over you with a drill going at you. You know, okay, I'm going to be going up to the dentist, so you can prepare yourself for that.
Yeah, I think my advice for in terms of mental health stuff, because I've got ADHD and possibly even bipolar, and I've had various things happen to me in my life. Like, I was really terrified of getting arrested in the beginning. I said that it was something that I wouldn't be able to do, and I was also really nervous about being queer and how that would play out, being in a cell and stuff. Like, at the time, I didn't even know that we get put in separate cells. I thought, would I be put in with all loads of other people and stuff? So I think that my advice would be to just find out as much as possible, speak to other people who have been through the experience, and maybe anybody who you can compare yourself to would be good. But with my mental health, like, I don't know, like, it felt like the preparation is the thing that that really helped me. So I think I wasn't as prepared as I should have been for my first one. Like I hadn't considered for a moment that my house could be raided. And I think that's something important to consider, because I didn't take my actual phone out with me when the first time that I got arrested. I left it in my bedroom charging. And when I got home after the station, unfortunately, I had been raided. And I think that was unprecedented. Like hardly anyone's ever had that for their first time. But I think because my name went in the press release and stuff, like I think it made it so that, and I also was the closest person geographically to the police station. So I think they just went for mine, or maybe they just wanted to scare me because it was my first time, but that did affect my mental health. I was so shocked by that. Getting home and my room was like a mess and stuff. And I was scared because they'd taken my phone and everything. So I feel like that's something you should definitely consider. Or that's something I wish I had at the time. And yeah, because that did affect me like negatively. But in terms of the next time, because I was way more prepared for that, and just to let you know that if you ever are, if you were taking part in September or whatever, if you're here thinking about that, I would advise you to remove anything electronic from your bedroom and just put it somewhere else in your house, because they can't search anywhere else in your house if they do that. Yeah, so I feel like, but being in the cell didn't affect me anywhere near as much as I thought it would. And also, I agree with Norb, like the second time, I didn't tell them that I had any mental health stuff because I didn't want them to be checking on me every 15 minutes, because that's really annoying when you're trying to sleep and they keep waking you up. So I think that just shows you, though, that once you've done it once, like it gives you this kind of layer of strength and you understand that you can cope with it. I always compare being in the cell to like being in hospital or something, like when you're in your own room or whatever. Like, because you can get out, like you can press the button and you can go there. I've gone for a shower before. I've gone to the little exercise place. Yeah, so it's not as claustrophobic as you might feel, and it's kind of spacey, honestly. The two ones that I've been in. So yeah, my mental health has been okay, but I would say just preparation is the best thing. And I just saw someone saying that it was cool to know that other people who are queer have done that. So yeah, I'm glad to have shared that.
And once again, that's just one of the things that gets spread out all throughout the group. Yeah, especially after the last time I was arrested, it was quite traumatizing for me and I was quite shaken up. But because we're all here, and like I said at the beginning, we're all here and we're all going through this with our shared experience. And the more you talk about it and the more you share about it with, all of your new friends, the more you'll be able to bounce back from it. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I want to thank you all so very much for coming along this evening, and massive, tremendous thank you to everyone on the panel. I honestly, every single one of you who've joined up to the panel said, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that." Just made me so incredibly excited. I was just like, "Oh my God, really? Oh my God, that's brilliant!" It just made my day, absolutely. So yeah. Like I said, thank you all for coming along, and thank you all for this lovely, lovely panel. And yeah, hope to see you all again real soon. And